What's up, guys? It's your man Donovan Sharp, and welcome to this edition of TSR Live on a Saturday. Let's go ahead and get right to it. My guest is he's been in the game for over a decade. He's written the book called The 7 Laws of Seduction. He is the senior game writer over at Return of Kings. He knows his shit. I'm, of course, talking about my man, Troy Francis. Troy, how's it going tonight, man?
Yeah, it's going really good, man. It's good to be here. It's good to chat to you again. It's been a little while since the last time, so looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Now, where are you right now? Because every time I talk to you, you're in a different part of the world, dude.
So, indeed, yeah. So right now I'm in Berlin, Germany. So I'm based still in London at the moment, but I'm spending a lot of time in Berlin. It's a very cool city, lots of parties here, lots of crazy stuff going on. So yeah, spending a bit of time here. So at the moment I'm over here tonight, or it's kind of evening time for us. So just talking to you this evening in Berlin. Yeah.
Good stuff, man. Now, just as a side note, how are the girls in Berlin? Are there quality girls in Berlin, or how's that working?
Well, it's an interesting one, actually. I was just, funnily enough, having a conversation with a guy who reads my stuff, and he contacted me because he knew I was in Berlin, and we were talking about this. I mean, it's not a paradise. So when you get guys, you know, they're talking about Eastern Europe, or they're talking about Russia, or, you know, Poland or something. It's not like that. And actually, a lot of guys complain because quite a liberal sort of a place, so there's quite a few girls who are quite sort of, you know, green hair, short hair, nose rings, all that kind of stuff. Having said that, it's an international party place, so you get girls from all over coming here. So you get Russian girls, you get Polish, you get Lithuanian. Really? So because it's big, and also the population's about 4 million, so it's a big place.
Okay.
So there's kind of something for everyone, but you've got to. It's not a paradise in the way that maybe going to Ukraine is, or something like that.
Now, so what's the difference between a place like Berlin or Ukraine?
I suppose the main thing is that Berlin is very liberal, so it's and it's very westernized as well. Is the main thing. So as you're going further east, obviously, I mean, I was in St. Petersburg just recently in Russia, which was awesome, you know, and that's a whole other conversation in itself. And, you know, obviously a lot of guys go to Kiev and places like that. When they're going there, a lot of these guys, they're talking about the fact that the culture there is sort of different. You know, it's Eastern European, it's more traditional. They're getting a better reception from the girls that they meet. You're not typically going to get that in Berlin, really. Berlin's a lot more westernized. You know, you're not really going to win any brownie points for being English or for being American or anything like that.
Really? So that doesn't get you. So everybody starts off the same. As far as girls are concerned, it doesn't matter where you are or where you're from. You still have to have the game.
Absolutely, yeah. Whereas when I was in Russia, for example, so I was in Russia just before Christmas in St. Petersburg, and there I definitely did get some brownie points for being from the UK, for being having that kind of exotic kind of foreigner appeal. In Berlin, I don't really get that. It's just they're used to loads of English people are here, loads of Americans are here. So it's
not a novelty.
It's not a novelty, but the reasons I'm here are different, really. It's not fun. It's not predominantly because of game. It's also because it's just a cool city, and there's an awesome vibe, and there's loads of parties, and it's a really crazy place. So that's more the reason that I'm here. And it's a more livable place as well. Probably when you go further east, when you go into places like Kiev, or sort of parts of Poland and so on, you know, it gets a little bit less. This is very, very modern. It's very westernized. It's very livable, and it's also a lot less expensive than London as well. So London is a very expensive place compared to here. So there's advantages. It's not necessarily the first on the list for game, but you know, like you can make anywhere work. You know.
Okay. The reason I asked you about this is that you're from the UK, and obviously most of my audience is American. So they think to themselves, okay, Troy is he's British, right? He has experience with girls, but I live in America. So I want you to take my audience, draw the similar, because guys like you and me, we know that places like the US and the UK are one and the same with regards to the girls, the sluttiness, the quality, the lack thereof, etc., etc. So I want to let my audience know why girls in England, girls in the UK, why are they similar to American girls, if at all? Just so that when we're giving them advice on how to fuck these girls on the first date, they understand that this is possible.
Yeah. So in England, I think culturally in England it's very similar to the States.
Okay.
From what I understand. I mean, the last time I was in the States, I was in Vegas a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, man, yeah. Remember, it was actually when we were working on that project. It was just
that's exactly right. I remember that. I do. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And before that, I've been to New York a lot of times and stuff. So different places in the States. So I kind of know what the vibe's like. And I know what I read about, what people tell me about the culture over there. From my understanding, I think the culture in England is very similar, to be honest. It's westernized, it's extremely liberal, it's very feminist. Girls are very entitled. We kind of joke about it a bit, but in London, the English girls, tend to perhaps don't look after themselves as well, shall we say, as some of the Eastern European girls.
Okay.
We've got McDonald's on every corner, all of that kind of stuff. And there is a certain sense of entitlement, unfortunately, amongst some of the girls over there. So in terms of the UK in particular, I think it's very similar to what you get in the States, really. It might be slightly worse in the States, but I don't think very much. That we've got being in the UK, of course, is that we're near to Europe. We're part of Europe and we're near to Eastern Europe, so we can travel and we can get to those places more easily.
Excellent. Yeah, I just wanted people to know and understand that in terms of the kinds of women that that people deal with, women from the UK and women from the United States are very similar in that regard. So I want people to know, hey guys, don't let the accent fool you. Troy would do very well here in the United States. As a matter of fact, I would even go as far as to say, if you came to the States, dude, girls here are so slutty. As soon as they heard you talk to me, like, oh, British guy, want to suck his dick.
I need to get over there again. I need to get over there, but the thing is, I need to get over to the right areas, I think, because I have heard of guys here who do trips to the States, like annual trips to the States, but they go to sort of places like, I don't know, like Georgia, or they go to like
God.
Yeah, I don't know. They go to sort of second or third tier cities, because the thing is, when you go to New York, it doesn't really make much difference. It makes a little bit of difference sometimes, but in general, it doesn't make a lot of difference. So I think you need to. I think it depends where you go. But yeah, I mean, man, I'm 100% up for coming over again and taking advantage of that,
dude. Straight up. And listen,
where would you advise I go then?
Oh my God! Listen, there are 3 cities that you should go to. The first one is Vegas, right? Like that's all day, every day. I would also advise Austin, Texas. That's a very good area. Dude, there are sluts abound. It's actually a tax-free state. The third city is Miami. If you're into Brazilian girls, Latina girls, Dominican girls, if you're looking for something exotic, so I would definitely recommend those 3 cities. Obviously, now San Francisco, that is super liberal. San Francisco is probably probably like Berlin. Seattle is also a very good city. You can never go wrong in LA, but stay away. And New York City is another great city, dude. There are hot girls all over New York City. Oh, dude, absolutely. Listen, Kyle Trouble, I mean, like I said, he's got plenty of experience out there. So it's okay, so let's go ahead and get to it. A lot of guys have been asking me. A lot of you guys have been asking me, Donovan, I'm good at setting up. I'm good at approaching, right? Good at the red pill game. I can get the phone number. I can get the first date, but I want to be able to close the deal on the first date. Why am I not fucking girls on the first date? This is why Troy is here. So Troy, take me inside of where would you start? If I'm a guy, if I'm Donovan and I'm like, Troy, I'm having trouble fucking girls on the first date. What would be your first piece of advice?
I think ensure that you're sexualizing the interaction enough. And I think that obviously it's going to be different in each case for each guy. But I think in the main, the guy isn't sexualizing the interaction sufficiently on that date to move it forward to the next stage, if you like. Right. So it very much depends what you're doing on the date. Now, when I'm on the date, I will ensure that I am escalating really from the moment that we meet. So I'm sort of upping the ante from the moment that we meet to go on a date. And I'm always thinking to the next step. You know, I'm always thinking, you know, there's always a purpose in mind. So what I'm not doing is just sitting there and having a nice conversation and kind of, I don't know, sitting out talking about our family or something, you know, or what she's doing at school or whatever it is. You know, I'm always exactly. You know, it's always. And what I veer towards more now is basically a 2-drink model at most. So we go to the bar, we go to the lounge, we have a maximum of 2 drinks, and then we're looking at going home, basically. So I'm quite militaristic about it in that sense, you know. And I think that's probably what people are missing. I think people are probably not upping the ante enough during the date and really moving things forward.
Why do you think that is? I mean, do you think that they're afraid of pushing the gas because they're afraid they're going to scare the girl away?
I think that's probably the case. I think that can be the case. And also as well, things can happen actually, but from this side of the coin, I think people are afraid of scaring her away, but I think they can also be afraid, and I've had this myself, of you've already got a boost to your ego in a way because you're there, you're on the date, and you know you've got her out, and maybe you're making out or something like that. So actually afraid because you think, well, if I really push the envelope here and say to her, right, cut, let's go back to my place or something, and then she says no, then I'm going to feel bad because I'm going to feel that rejection. So, so I think sometimes people kind of hold off from going that extra mile because they don't want to spoil it, if you like. They don't want to spoil the validation they've already got. But my response to that is you've got to go all out because it's a zero-sum game, really. Either you're going to get laid or you're not. And so, you know, you might as well go for gold. You might as well go for broke. Where you get to, you know, because otherwise you can lose by default, you know, because you didn't push it hard enough.
Right. I think that's to me the number one reason. And it's weird how this works. I don't know how it worked with you, but when I first took the red pill, I learned game, and then all of a sudden it seemed like literally overnight I was being attracted, or hotter girls were attracted to me, and you almost don't know how to act. So when you're out on the date, you're like, holy shit, like I'm out on a date with this 9 or this 10, my tongue's been in her mouth, I don't want to fuck this up, so I think I'm going to take the W and go home. What do you think about that? Exactly. No, I think that's absolutely right, and that's another thing actually. That's another element of it. Particularly if you're with a very attractive girl, or sort of like a girl who you think is somewhat out of your league, then it might be that you're even more inclined, not to push it, because and there's an element of ego that comes into that, because you think subconsciously you think actually she is out of my league. I don't deserve her. She is better than me. So therefore, you know, I don't have the not like I don't have the right to push it, but you know, I don't want to. It's more risky to push it because you're putting her on a pedestal. And what I learned is that you need to basically just ignore those voices and just go with it anyway. You know, which is tough to do at first, but that's really what you need to do. It takes practice. And I would say learning to sleep with pretty girls on the first date. Listen, almost nobody, and the very first time you do it, a lot of time, and I think you can speak to this as well. You and like guys like you and me, we've fucked more pretty girls than the average man. But we can also admit the fact that, how can I put this, that if you fuck a 10 on the first date, luck plays as much a role as anything else. Listen, you might be in the right place at the right time. Sometimes the stars have to be aligned. A girl might want to fuck you, Troy, but she might be on her period. She might be going through some shit. Maybe she wants validation. I think guys have to understand that just because a girl doesn't fuck you doesn't mean she doesn't want to. It just might have been the wrong day at the wrong time.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, I think as well that I think genuinely there are girls who will just, who girls will say, well, I've got a rule. I don't fuck on the first date. And there are times that you can get through that, and that rule will go by the wayside. Fine, but a lot of the time, maybe it won't. And that's just a self-image thing that she has. And I think guys shouldn't be too hard on themselves because. I mean, I was listening to, I don't know, you're aware of Tom Torero, the UK day gamer.
I actually have heard of him. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. He does some good stuff. Anyway, I was listening to a talk by him the other day, and he was saying, globally, really, the average is still 2 dates.
Right.
So, right. I mean, yes, you can do it on the first date, and there are means of, making that more likely. But so we shouldn't be too hard on ourselves if it's not always happening on the first date. I mean, what we need to avoid is we're going on 10 dates, or we're going on, 5 dates, 10 dates, all of that. That's when it's a problem. And if that's happening to you a lot, then clearly your vibe is off. There's something wrong with the way that you're presenting yourself. But if it's a couple of dates, I mean, it's fine. I mean, an ex of mine, I went out with her. We went out on the first night, and we were making out, and it was pretty on and everything. I was trying to get her to come back with me. She was also pretty ill as well. She had some kind of like fucking cold or something, so she was not feeling the best of shape. And she said, look, I'm not going to come back with you tonight, but clearly it was kind of on because we were like, whatever. So I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. I mean, obviously I gave it a good shot. Pushed it a couple of times, and I was like, okay, fine. And then I said to her, well, what are you doing tomorrow? And she's like, well, actually, I haven't got any plans tomorrow. So I was like, okay, well, let's meet up tomorrow then. So we went out the next night, and then she came back on that second night. So, to me, I'm not putting that down as a major failure. I'm just like, yeah, whatever. I mean, she got her, she allowed herself to feel okay about it because she hadn't given it up on the first night.
There you go.
She needs me the next day.
There you go.
So. To me, that's not a massive deal. I think that's cool,
Not at all. And I'm going to tell you what here. V for Velian actually made this comment. He said, so trying more than once isn't a bad idea, guys. If she turns you down once, go for another take and try it again. I've actually discussed this before. In that, if you get a girl back to your place and you try to fuck her, right? Like I've been in situations, we call this LMR, last minute resistance, right? You're feeling her, you're sucking on her tits, she's grabbing your dick. She will know that you are trying to fuck her when you try to pull her panties down. That's when she knows it's on. If she lets you pull her panties down, she's gonna fuck. But if she doesn't, right? If she stops you, that means that she doesn't want to fuck right then and there. Here's the difference. If she stays there with you, she wants you to try again, right? What she's doing is the same thing that your ex-girlfriend did. She's giving, in her mind, she wants to tell herself, okay, I didn't go back with Troy the first night, so by fucking him on the second night, I'm not a slut because I made him wait. Well, if you have a girl at your place, okay, well, he tried to fuck me 5 times. So, or yeah, I fucked him on the first date, but I didn't fuck him the first time he tried to fuck me. You guys have to understand that. If she gets up and leaves or tells you to leave, that means she doesn't want to fuck. If you try to pull those panties down, but she stays in your presence, she wants you to try again.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, I think it's a dance, isn't it? It's a backwards and forwards between the two of you, and it's kind of like, I mean, yeah. And the classic sort of PUA advice with this is that you, if she puts up that resistance, so you go, okay, fine, and you roll off, and you're like, okay. I mean, the classic advice, and I don't generally do this myself, but it's almost like you say, okay, fine, whatever, and then you go and check your email or something. You completely disengage. And she's still there, and then she's sort of like, "Well, hang on a minute, the attention's been taken away from me now."
You go. So now the girl knows what is required to keep your attention.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I personally don't go as far as going to check the email, but certainly, what I will do is just chill the fuck out. Just sort of like, okay, fine, whatever. Let's chill out. We'll watch some, Family Guy or whatever it is. And then, and then try exactly. I mentioned that because I've got a girl here at the moment, and we were just watching some Family Guy before, which is kind of classic. So,
of course.
But Yeah, you know, I think it's a bit like it's equivalent really to going in for the kiss on a date, because guys get very concerned about trying to kiss a girl on a date, and
of course,
you know, you get that kind of fear of like, oh, but if I go in for the kiss and then she turns the cheek, you know, what do I do then? It's so frightening. I'm just like, fuck it, man. I mean, I've been on dates with girls, and I've gone in for the kiss like fucking, I don't know, 7 times or something, and she's turned the cheek, and then finally, you know, and it's just you laugh it off. You talk about something else for a few minutes, and then you go back in again. You keep, because your job is to persist, and her job is to resist, and
that's
then
exactly right.
Finally. So I think it's the same in the bedroom situation, really. I mean, you know, obviously you're respectful of what she says, and you know, you're okay, fine, and you pull away. But that doesn't mean that you just give up, because as you say, she's still there. She knows what the deal is, and sometimes as well, it's going to take until the next morning. I mean, in the summer, I was in Ibiza, and I was with this girl, and we. You know, she came. I mean, it was one of those evenings. It went on for it seemed to go on for ages. You know, she came, but finally she came back to my place. We're talking the balcony. We're making out. Blah blah blah. She gets in the bed, but she didn't want to do anything. So okay, fine, whatever. And in the end, we just go to sleep. She was going to stay over, and I'm like, okay, fine. You know, nothing's going to happen. Let's just go to sleep. And to be honest, I wasn't even sure that anything was going to happen at all. But I'm like, well, I'm really tired now, so I'm just going to, you know, I'm going to go to sleep.
But she was still there, right? She was still there. Yes.
Absolutely. She's still there. And sure enough, in the morning, you know, we end up having sex. So sometimes you just need to be able to wait it out, you know.
And forgive me here, I'm actually trying to open my window here so I can get it a little bit cooler. There we go. I'm good to go. The point, I think the point is that so long as the girl is still in your presence, she wants, and she might not even want to fuck Troy, but she may want you to continue to try. Whether she whether she has sex with you or not, if you try to have sex with her and she doesn't leave, she likes you. She may want you to wait until the second or third date, but she still likes you. So let's play out this scenario. I know a lot of guys have to understand that foreplay for women lasts a lot longer than you just, you know, playing with her pussy beneath her panties on your and a lot of guys, they don't understand that. They think, okay, well, we're on the date, this is just a formality. No, you have to understand that the attraction, the dance, like you said, it lasts for a lot longer than the 10 minutes of foreplay. Take my audience inside of the dynamics, like when you pick her up, when you're escalating, you know, using Kino and things like that. How important is it to start the foreplay early, and how do you do that to set it up for later on?
I think it's really important. That's what I mean. I think the way I talk about it is sort of sexualizing the interaction, and I try to do that as early on in the interaction total as I possibly can. So even when I've met the girl and maybe I've taken her phone number and then we're texting each other, when we start texting each other, I tend to start dropping in sort of slightly suggestive things, you know, double entendres, jokey kind of things, but sexually like jokey kinds of things. So just to ensure that we're both on the same page, because what I don't want is it going down in some friend zone kind of a situation. So I want her to know where I'm coming from, and of course I want her to be on the same page as well. And plus it's more fun for both of us, because we're kind of that's to me, it's flirting, you know, it's being sexy with each other, being sexy. So you start that, or even from the texting sort of type thing. So then even before the date, you know, she knows what the deal is. And then when you go on the date, I mean, a classic thing is so, you know, you can talk about Kino or touch. Now, for me, of course, it's it's something that we have to be sensitive when we're talking about, because obviously what we're not talking about here is touch in some sort of invasive kind of way, or some sort of creepy way, or something like that. But nevertheless, I read once, and I think this was the results of a survey, which suggested that the more that a couple touch when they first get together, the greater the likelihood of sex is to take place. So it's just statistically more likely. So and fundamentally, you just want to be making it her more comfortable. You want to be making her more comfortable with the fact that you're physical together.
Right.
Because what you have to do is to avoid the terrible sort of situation of you've been on a date for 4 hours and you haven't touched.
You haven't touched her, and then when you try to touch her, she's like, "Oh, what are you doing?"
Yeah. And then very awkwardly you go in for the kiss, and it's really awkward, and she kind of like, you don't want that. What you want is to take baby steps and slowly work up to greater physical intimacy. And obviously the final stage of that is sex, but there's a lot of different mini steps before that. So, as soon as I meet her, I will tend to, maybe I put out my arm and so that she takes my arm and we walk together. So there's just things like that. And that's not invasive or anything like that.
No.
But it's, just gradual. And then, when we're talking, tell a joke, she laughs or she says something I agree with, I'll maybe touch her arm. Another thing that I do on dates, and I started to do on dates a lot earlier, was to actually take her hand, which is quite a ballsy thing to do, actually.
Yes.
But it's sort of like it kind of, you can do it far more early in the date than you think, actually, and it kind of works. And if she continues to hold your hand, then you kind of then it's on. It's not a sexual kind of touch, but it's an intimate sort of touch, So you take her hand, I just kind of hold her hand, and it's almost in a fake romantic way. Things like that will make the idea of touch between you much more normal.
Right.
So she's used to it. And so then when you escalate, if you're going for a kiss or something like that, it's not this kind of weird thing that's just come out of the blue. It feels like it's grown organically. Exactly.
Yeah, it's almost like you want to touch a woman to the point where going in for the kiss is kind of what's expected. It is the obvious. Yeah. It is an obvious conclusion to the end of the date, or that means to an end, so to speak. Tell me, like there are a lot of guys out here who don't really understand IOIs or things like that, and there are a lot of guys out there who are highly in favor of not trying anything physical unless she's giving you signs to be physical. Obviously, putting out your arm, that's a gentlemanly thing to do. A lot of men are intimidated by taking a woman's hand. And I don't mean holding hands like this. I mean locking, because this is much more intimate than this, right?
Yes, of course.
Right. This is what we're going for. We want the interlocking hands. Do you wait for verbal or nonverbal cues to go for the handhold, or do you just do the ballsy thing?
Do you mean if you're like walking down the street or something like that?
That's exactly right.
Well, what I tend to do is if you take the arm first and do that thing, then normally after that, after a little while, I'll then take the hand and do the interlocking fingers, because it's less of a jump from the arm holding to that.
Sure.
But having said that, I mean, it's going to vary in every case. It's not to say that every single time accept it. It might be that you're walking around and then she drops your hand after a bit because she's not ready quite yet for that level of intimacy.
Which is not a bad sign. It's not a bad sign. It just means, okay, you've got some work to do, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that happened to me a little while back with a girl, and it's like, okay, fine. So and again, with all of these things, it's you're on. You push a little bit. If it doesn't work, okay, fine, no problem. Pull back. So that happened to me a while ago. She kind of drops, unlinks my hand after a while, and it's like, okay, fine. Just carry on walking around, talking about the stuff. Don't make a big deal of it, and then again later you try again. It's always, you can't expect it to be. You've got to be prepared to put a bit of work in. You can't expect it to be plain sailing.
Right.
And the other thing as well is you're being tested as well to a degree.
Okay.
In terms of how comfortable you are with micro rejections, if you like. So if she drops your hand, or she won't link, or she won't kiss you or something like that, how are you going to react to that? Are you going to be really butthurt? Is it going to be such a massive blow to your ego that you walk out the room or something? You've got to just be cool with it. You just go, okay, fine, whatever. We'll talk about something else. We'll carry on, blah blah blah. And now I try again. And that's what you need to do.
You make a very good point. Handling micro rejections, and I've never heard it called that before, but we all know what they are.
Yeah.
Handling micro rejections just by acting like it's no big deal, act like it doesn't phase you. If she drops her hand after 5 seconds, no big deal, right? Just continue to walk.
Absolutely,
if you go in for the kiss and she gives you the cheek, kiss her on the cheek and act like nothing happened. This is a shit test. This is a fitness test in a lot of cases. They want to know, and this is also a I don't want to get too deep here, but a woman wants to know that you are the type of man who goes for what he wants, a man who doesn't give up at the first sign of failure, a man who has the stick-to-itiveness to stay the course. Because women think about this stuff all the time. If he got butthurt, if all of a sudden his body language slumps after he tried to kiss me the first time, what happens at work, right? Does he do this every time? Does this happen in all parts of life? So I think that handling micro rejections and her seeing that you don't just give up at the first sign of trouble, I think that's very important, and I think it helps to build attraction.
I think absolutely as well. And I think another point about it is probably that it shows that you've had previous success, because if you're not fazed by that and you carry on, then I don't mean carry on in a sort of any kind of aggressive way, but you're just okay. I'm not phased. Cool, whatever. We'll carry on walking, and then maybe I'll try again a bit later on. Right. That shows that it probably indicates that you've had success before, because you're confident enough to continue. So you've probably been successful with other girls, which shows pre-selection, which obviously is a big point, as well as the fact that it shows you're persistent and you're confident. So because you're confident in the product, if I'm selling myself, I'm the product. Okay, so she doesn't buy it in the first 5 minutes. So do I then give up? Well, if I did, that would indicate that I'm not confident in the product. But actually, I want to say, well, no, I'm confident in the product. This is awesome. So, I know that you're going to buy eventually. I'm just going to hang on in there until you do.
Okay, so let's move a little further along in the interaction. So you guys are holding hands, right? She drops her hand after 5 seconds, but then I don't know, maybe 10, 15 minutes later, you're still walking. Now she feels comfortable with this, right? So you guys go. Now, let me ask you this. When you, Troy Francis, are on a first date, what are your go-to spots? What are your go-to activities to try to fuck girls? Obviously, you're always trying to fuck her on the first date, but where do you normally take women? Let's just say that you see a woman at a train station or the subway, right? You chat her up on the platform, you get her number, you set up a date. Where are you taking her? Where would you take her to increase the likelihood of first date sex?
I would just always keep it simple and go for a drink. I would always go to a lounge bar type place. So I always try to go somewhere where they serve drinks. Usually somewhere you can sit down. Usually you want somewhere that's kind of buzzy, so there's other people around, but it's not too busy. And it's great if you can get someone with comfortable seats. So you've got like couches in there, sofas in there, right? And you can sit down, and ideally if you can sit next to her as well. That's another important thing, because when you're sitting across from her, I kind of hate sitting across from people. It just feels very formal. It feels like an interview situation or something. You want to be able to sit down next to her so that you can then, it feels more intimate. You can touch, you can escalate physically, etc., etc. So I would always keep it simple and do that. I very rarely do anything more elaborate, go to like a fun fair or something like that. I mean, it's just, and certainly I generally don't go for dinners or anything like that. I think a couple of drinks, absolutely fine,
I would say, and just to, I don't know how you feel about this, but I don't like taking a woman on the first meetup. To me, sit down dinner dates are an absolute no-no. Because it gives her an elevated sense of importance. It gives her, you don't want to put her on a pedestal, because when you are sitting down with her at a sit down restaurant, she is being served. She has your attention. Miss, can I get you? And it's subconscious. And plus, it is always assumed that when you take a girl out on a dinner date, that you are the one that is going to pay. Here's why that's a problem for me. You don't want to pay for a date for a woman who has not earned it yet, right? I don't want her to get the idea that all you have to do is to show up and I start paying for dates. At some point down the line, if you show me that you're a quality woman, worth being around, et cetera, yeah, I'll go into my wallet to show you a good time. But the first time we meet up, I might buy you a couple of drinks. And my go-to thing is if I'm really feeling hardcore, yeah, let's go for drinks. And then when we get there, I'll tell you what, you buy the first round, I'll buy the next round to make sure that she's invested in this thing, which to me increases the likelihood of first date sex.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. I mean, with the dinner thing, I just don't think it's really a very, I don't think, even putting aside the sort of, who's paying and all of that stuff, I just don't think it's a very seductive situation. I think it can be a nice thing to do later on, like you say, when she's proven herself and you're kind of in a mini relationship or whatever it is. But as a seductive thing, I don't think it works very well. I don't think it's particularly sexy. It's just, I just, so apart from the fact of then, like you say, and being expected to pay for it as well, which is not great. So I mean, I went for Christmas, and she said something like, she was kind of into me, but she was saying something like, "Oh, next time, you have to take me for dinner because that's really kind of like," and I was just like, yeah, whatever. And I just didn't see her again because I just don't want to get into that dynamic, really. I mean, it's ridiculous,
the funny thing is the way I would, oh no, go ahead.
No, that was it really. But it's just, I don't like that dynamic. And secondly, I don't think it doesn't really help either. It's better that you both just have a couple of drinks and then you're a bit horny and you go back. I mean, that's going to be much more likely rather than somebody you're actively helping her to line her stomach.
Yes, of course, right. And after a big dinner, she's going to be tired. It's like, oh, no. I'm trying to fuck. Yeah. How I would handle it if I were in your situation, obviously we have different approaches. If a girl said to me, "Hey, Donovan, the next time we go out, I'd like to do the dinner thing. I'm a traditional girl." And I would say to her, "Well, listen, there will be a next time if you play your cards right." And kind of say it with a smirk to let her know that if there's going to be a dinner date, then you need to earn that dinner date. Again, I am very, very big on not, how can I put this? I'm very big on not reward your girl all you want to. Like, there's nothing wrong with treating women well. She has to earn it. You are not entitled to male attention. You're not entitled to attention from me just for showing up. I'll give you my attention because you're attractive. Everything else you've got. Listen, I can go out and get pussy anytime I want to, right? But I'm not going to pay for something that I think I can get out of you for little to nothing. So you got to come with a lot more than just a vagina and being there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, completely. And like I say, it's just counterproductive anyway. So it's just not a route that I go to, because as well, also you've got the dinner table in front of you. You've got people coming and serving you. It's just not very, whereas if you're just sitting down, you're having a couple of drinks, it can be a lot more intimate. You can be closer together.
Right.
It's easier to escalate. So it's just the dinner thing is just a no-no. And the other thing that's a big no-no as well is, I mean, I would never do this, but sometimes guys ask about this, is going to the cinema. I think going to the cinema
movies
for a first date is not a good idea either.
Wow. Tell us why, because that's one of my recommendations. Take her to the movies. But yeah, school me.
Well, my view is, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. My view is that I like to sit down with her and be able to talk. Do you know what I mean? Because I want to showcase, because, what value do I have to bring to the table? Well, part of my value is whatever is my personality. It's what I've got to say. So I want to be able to showcase that. So what I don't want to have to do is go and sit in the dark for 2 hours and watch a movie and not really be able to talk. Particularly if we haven't if we haven't reseeded it very well first,
right.
If we just met and then and the first thing that happens is we go on the date and then we go and sit in a movie theater for 2 hours. I just find that sort of like, I'm not sure that moves things on, but I could be wrong, because I know that some guys, it's a classic kind of date scenario. And
yeah,
I suppose
you put your arm around her, right?
Yeah. Do you find that works? Do you think that's is that something that you recommend?
I have rarely failed to convert when I take a girl. Like, I don't know. I don't have the percentages, but I think it's probably 50-50. 50% of the time I fuck her on the first date. 50% of the time I don't. But I think I agree. I think I agree with what you're saying, because because the strongest part of our overall game, you and I, you can't be the strong silent type and be able to fuck girls unless you look like, you know, Chris Hemsworth. That only happens in the movies. Oh, I love the strong silent type. No, you don't. You like guys who are charismatic, who are outgoing. You like the strong silent type if he is hot, because you have already made the decision that you are going to fuck him. The strong silent type who looks like you know, who looks like a fucking male model. Yeah, he takes bitches to the movies all the time because the deal is already done. He just wants to get some popcorn on his stomach so he can fuck you longer. But guys like you and me, the strongest part of a man's overall game is his gift of gab. You can't be charismatic. You can't be outgoing. You can't escalate if you're not talking. And I think a movie a lot of times takes that away. So I don't want to say that taking a girl to the movies is a bad thing, but now listening to you, I can see how sometimes it can sort of put an uncomfortable gap between you and escalating, you know, both verbally and physically.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's just me. I mean, I thought of that because I was thinking back to when a friend of mine was asking me for some advice. You know, he met this girl and he really liked, and he was saying, oh, you know, should I take her to the movies? And I just said no. I just said, for me, it's a no-no. I would much rather sit down with her 2 hours in the bar, you know, work my game on her and then escalate from there. I mean, again, with all of these things, I mean, after and actually, funnily enough, and I know that we don't often take girls' advice about these things, but I ran it past my girlfriend at the time, and I said to her, "What do you think about this?" And she said the same thing. She said, "Yeah, before sex, I don't think the movie theater is a good idea." And it was for the same reason, I think, because before you've had sex, it's sort of like you haven't solidified the thing enough. Do you know what I mean? After you've had sex, you can do any of this stuff. You know,
there you go.
You can go for dinner. You can go to the movies. You can do whatever you want. You know, but before, you've got a very limited window of opportunity, really, to solidify this thing. And for me, the most effective way of doing that is, you know, through using whatever charisma I have to draw her in, basically.
You know what? So I'll say this: if you are a good-looking guy, right? Like really good looking guy, like the type of guy that women all look at. Like I have a good friend of mine in Atlanta, tall guy. I've written about him before. I called him Paul. Dude, he's blonde hair, blue eyes. I mean, dude, he's a fucking underwear model, right? Dude, bitches look at him all the time. He is the kind of guy.
Yeah.
He's the kind of guy that rarely fails to convert with the dinner date or with the movie date. Guys like you and me, we need to put ourselves in social situations where we can look at you face to face, touch your face, make out a few times, escalate verbally and physically. I think that's a very good point that you make. I think that's an excellent point. It makes a lot of sense. Listen to me. Listen, man, you're teaching me shit on here today.
I can't imagine that could be the case, but no, it's interesting. I mean, really good looking guy game. I mean, I guess is totally different, and maybe that's an interesting that's an interesting thing in its own right. But I suppose for the vast majority of people, I guess, you know, we've got to think about, well, okay, mate, if we're not in that subsector, then what's going to work best for the more, I don't want to say average guy, but you know what I mean? Like, what's going to work better if you're not at that kind of elite level, if you like.
I got a really good comment here from one of my more intelligent red pill aware guys. ETF 42 says, first date, either drinks or coffee. Second date, interactive date or a homemade meal. Cooking with or for a woman in your house, dude. I've done that before, like cooking for a woman, cooking with a woman. Dude, it works every time. She's got her shoes off. You're impressing her because she can see that you have culinary faculty. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I would agree with that, definitely. So I think, the first date, drinks or whatever. And then the second date, you can say, well, why don't you come around and I'll cook, I'll cook for you. Now, I'm not a good cook, right? So I've done this, and again, this is something that Tom Torero in London has talked about. You don't necessarily need to be a great cook, because all you need to do then is get some crappy pasta or something, and just the great advantage of that is, of course, then she's at your place, so then you can escalate.
There you go.
So yeah, absolutely, I would definitely go along with that 100%. In terms of coffee dates, I'm not sure about that. Again, coffee dates are one of those things where it's sort of like it's kind of unromantic in a way. The other thing as well is I have to skirt around the issue of alcohol a bit, because I don't even drink anymore. So I mean, I'm not, you know, and I'm certainly not advocating. I would never go home with a girl who was drunk or anything like that, because it's just not, you know, it's just not the kind of behavior that I would indulge in. But we have to recognize, nevertheless, that alcohol is such a social lubricant in society, particularly in the UK and the States. And it's sort of like, it does oil the wheels. So I would generally go to a place where at least there's alcohol available. Now, that doesn't mean they always drink or whatever, but it's sort of like, if you go to a coffee bar, it's a lot more casual in a way.
Okay.
And I think it's sort of, for me, and there's something about coffee dates, I think, for me, that you're almost putting yourself up to be judged a bit, because it's almost a bit like, I could be wrong in this. I'm talking off the top of my head now, but it's almost like she thinks, okay, well, I'll go on this coffee date with this guy during the day, and I'll kind of see what he's like. And then if he passes the test, then maybe we can do something a bit more intimate, which would then maybe go for a drink or something like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I think that, and another thing I would point out about coffee dates is that, how can I put this? You want to take a girl, you think of things that girls do with guys that are in the friend zone, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
They go to dinners, they go to movies, they go out for coffee dates, romantic little chats, they go shopping together. So you want to avoid the kinds of dates that could potentially put you in the friend zone. Going out, listen,
exactly.
Girls who have guys in the friend zone, they rarely go out for drinks with these guys, and if they do, it's only to pick up other guys to get fucked by them.
Exactly. That's probably, you probably said it in a more articulate way, what I was trying to say, because yes, I think you're absolutely right. I think it might be putting yourself in a bit of a friend zone-y box.
Right.
If you do the coffee date. So I generally veer away from that myself. I would generally say, well, let's meet for drinks. We'll go to XX bar, meet me at 7 o'clock or whatever it is, you know. So at least then you've got the shot, and it's like it's unequivocal. It's a date. You can take the shot.
There's no bones about it. There's no question in terms of what the intention of the date is. You want to leave no plausible deniability.
Yeah, exactly. Now, it may go your way or it may not, but at least you've given it your best shot. You know, at least it wasn't. You're less likely to get the sort of oh god, but I thought we were just meeting as friends kind of thing that you might get if you go for a coffee. So that's my take on it anyway. You know, that's not to say that I've never done coffee dates and things. I mean, obviously I have, and it kind of depends on logistics and I don't know, various different things. But in general, I would veer away from it.
That, you know, this is an interesting discussion, man, because a lot of guys might have a rock solid game, but because they're taking these girls to the wrong place, like looking back now, even me, right? I used to think to myself, I looked good, I smelled good, everything was good. Why didn't I fuck this girl? I would just say, hell, you know what? I'm just going to charge it to the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just how that is. But a lot of times the venue might not, how can I put this? The venue that you decide to take a girl on, it may or may not help you, but it can definitely hurt you. And I think we've had a good discussion about that alone.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, you know, the reality is that particularly if you go to a nice lounge bar, I mean, there's a place I go to in London quite a lot, which is a hotel bar. So there's quite an upmarket hotel chain. They've got a bar in there. And it's just quite a nice environment. And, you know, these people aren't stupid. You know, they design these environments to make them quite sexy, you know.
Yes,
so they play good
right.
music. They you know, the decor is nice. And so you might as well use that stuff to your advantage. You know, you might as well go to a place that's got a little bit of, it's got that good feel to it as well. And when you don't get that as much in coffee bars necessarily, because they are by definition, they're more casual places. So, So yeah, you know,
you want to take her to a place that is conducive to you want to take her to a place that is conducive for sexual escalation.
Exactly. Absolutely. And like you say, I mean, it's always going to work. It doesn't mean it's always going to go your way, but you might as well put yourself in the best possible opportunity, because the reality as well, I mean, we're talking about first dates and, you know, having sex on first dates. That first date may be the only chance you get. And this is the reality of it.
Yeah, that's true. And the reason why it might be the only chance you get is because girls have other offers. Listen, if she's attractive, do you think you're the only dude who chatted her up that day? Do you think you're the only dude she gave her phone number to? Right?
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of the time, if you mess up that first meeting, then that could be it. You may never hear from her again. So you've got to always go into it thinking, well, I've only really got one shot at this, so I'm going to give it my best shot.
Good. Gentlemen, you are listening to, let me get this in here. You guys are listening to TSR Live with special guest Troy Francis. He's written for Return of Kings, I think, longer than I have at this point. He is the senior game writer. He has written numerous books, the best of which is The 7 Laws of Seduction. I'm going to link his site in the description and how to get in touch with Troy Francis. Follow him on Twitter at Troy7Laws. He's a great follow on Twitter. He and I, we've done a few collabs together. And so Troy, go ahead and continue your thought.
Yeah, no, that was it really. I was just going to say, I think, so if you put yourself into, so you could do a perfectly good date, or you could say, okay, well, let's go bowling, or let's, I don't know, something lame, let's go for a walk in the park or something like that. And it might be a perfectly nice idea. But it could cause her to put you in that friend zone box. And then that could be your chances blown. Because then you think, okay, well, next time we'll do something more, we'll do something a bit more exciting. I'll take her out in the night and I'll try and escalate and everything. But you may not get that second chance. Right. So you've always got to try to escalate as far as you can on that first date. Now, again, it may be that she says to you, well, actually, I don't do that. I'm not going to come back with you on the first night or whatever. Okay, fine. But she's going to respect you more because you took the shot, because she knows
exactly right. That's exactly right. I just did an episode called Why You Should Try. Oh, you saw it. Why You Should Try to Fuck Her on the First Date Every Time. And the number one reason is because she will respect you. A woman will punish you for not trying to have sex with her. A woman may very well want to fuck you and have it in her mind, I'm not going to fuck this guy on the first date because I want him to like me and I don't want him to think I'm a slut. But that doesn't mean she doesn't want you to try. If you don't try to fuck her on the first date, she might think that you're not attracted to her. She might think that you're afraid. Trying to fuck her on the first date is never a bad idea.
Absolutely, absolutely. You've always got to try. And even if in your head you've kind of accepted, okay, this is unlikely to happen this time because I know what this kind of, I know the kind of girl she is. I don't think it's going to happen this time. You've still got to give it a go, because she knows that you want it. And so if you don't go for it, then what is that communicated to her? As you say, it's probably, it might be communicating that, you're not interested, but equally, it might be just be communicating that you're too scared to do it. You're too scared to pull the trigger. And that is not going to stand you in good stead. She's just going to pass over you for somebody who is more, I've had a couple of girls saying to me recently, the main reason that they ended up being attracted to me was because of my confidence, and that's really, really important. So you've got to display, you've got to display confidence. You've got to show that you're not afraid to go for what you want, and be direct about it.
Okay, so let's move right along. So we're still on the first date, right? You got the perfect venue. You're sitting next to her. You guys have ordered a couple of drinks. So now, of course, the escalation has already started, right? You guys have held hands. You guys have got some you've got some alcohol to sort of lubricate the action, et cetera, et cetera. What are you doing while you are together with her having drinks to escalate it towards, obviously you're not trying to fuck her right there in the bar, but what are you doing during that date while you are next to her to increase the odds of fucking her when you get her back to your place? What are the things that you're doing? What are the things that you are saying?
So I think you can start to touch in a slightly more intimate way. So maybe you touch her leg, maybe you put
How is it? Okay, there we go. I was gonna get specific. Touching her leg, touching her knee,
that kind of thing. And again, of course, for the interest of political correctness, I have to be, you have to be a bit careful about this stuff. I mean, again, I'm not talking about doing anything invasive or anything that is, that clearly she's, seriously doesn't want.
Of course not.
Nevertheless, in a normal social interaction, that kind of stuff should be fine. So you are slowly raising the temperature of the interaction. In terms of what you're talking about, I mean, I think the other thing that's very important is eye contact. So deep eye contact,
right?
Very important. I mean, I can be pretty. I mean, I've gone through phases of doing different things. You know, I can be pretty full on, you know, sexually, in terms of even pulling her towards me and whispering in her ear sexually what I want to do to her, all that kind of thing. You can do that, and that can work very well. But equally, you don't have to do that if you're not comfortable with that, or you don't think it's going to go down well. You can talk about normal stuff, but if you are keeping that eye contact going, you know, that very direct kind of suggestive eye contact, you're going to be communicating that vibe between you, you know, and then you can be talking about almost normal things. It doesn't really matter. What you want to be doing is ensuring that there is sexual tension there. Right. And I think you do that through the combination of touch and eye contact and you know, making it pretty. There's an interesting phrase for this: direct, indirect.
Okay.
So
explain that.
So how can I put it? You're making it very clear what you want and what's going to happen, but you're not necessarily verbalizing it. So you're looking at her.
You're making no bones. There you go. You're looking
but you're not. But
no. Go ahead.
But you're not necessarily saying it directly, but you're making it pretty clear. You know, and I think that kind of works really well, because then there's a sort of there's a very thin line between putting it all out there on the table and being direct, which is kind of a bit of a turn off, and keeping an air of mystery about it still. That's right. But nevertheless, you both know basically what the deal is, you know, and that's kind of the way you need to do.
This goes to slut shield and plausible deniability, and we'll get to this in just a little bit. You don't, obviously you want to fuck her. You're not going to tell a girl, well, I want to fuck you, right? Because now, the slut shields go right up. Well, I don't fuck on the first date, blah, 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 blah. But if you are touching her and looking at her in such a way that makes it very obvious that you are sexually attracted to her, it's almost like she comes to that conclusion herself. She doesn't want you to tell her. She wants you to, just like you said, indirectly show her, and then she will make that conclusion on her own.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I'll tell you this, a couple of tricks that I used to use just to have an excuse to put my hands on a woman. And these are just kind of tricks to break the ice as far as touching is concerned. Is I'll ask a girl about her fingernails, right? I'll be like, oh, what color is this? Now I'm touching her hands. You know what? I really like the way her hair smells. I'm stroking her. What kind of shampoo do you use? Again, she's getting used to being touched by me, and now she's qualifying herself to me. Oh, yes, I use Pantene Pro V, or I use Revlon, whatever, for my fingernails. If I'll pretend that there's something, oh, wait, hold still. There's something on your, okay, you had an eyelash on your eye, right?
Yeah.
Or you have something on the side of your mouth. You touch her mouth. Like, these are all things that get her used to being touched by you, and these are also erogenous zones a lot of times, so you can almost build attraction that way.
Or you could say, with the hair thing, you can say, yeah, you smell really good, and then pull her into you and then smell her neck. And then
I love it. Oh, yes, Troy, now you're talking.
Oh, my God. A good one. That's a good one. I like that one. I really like that. And then sort of touching this, you know, touching the skin like this and saying, oh, you know, you feel really soft and all this kind of thing. So yes, you know, you can certainly get to that stage, but you get to that more intimate stage by doing the first bits first. You know, it's a slow ladder, isn't it, up to that, and then further than that. So you're always laying the groundwork. I think that's the important thing. Yes,
that is the important thing. Never let your foot off the gas, guys. Don't let her mind wander, because here's the thing. How can I put this? You can go out. A lot of guys get friend zoned like this. They go out on that date. They don't try anything. They don't sexually escalate. Well, the girl wants to see you again. That doesn't necessarily mean she wants to fuck you or be something more than friends, right? So you need to, just like you said, you need to make it very clear from beginning to end what your intentions are. So you've escalated with her. She's used to being touched by you. You guys maybe have made out a few times. Getting kind of late. It's time to start closing the deal. What are the things that you tell her to get her back to your place or to get to her place?
Well, I mean, I keep it pretty simple, really. I will normally, I mean, the best thing I think you can do is to set it up early. So you could say something like, you could talk about a movie that you really like and maybe she hasn't seen. So you say, oh yeah, Vicky Cristina Barcelona or something.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen that movie. It's really great, blah, blah, blah. She's like, no, I haven't seen it. That's really interesting. And then towards the end, you say, well, look, listen, you know, it's getting a bit late now, but we should, I really want to show you a bit of that movie. So you should come. Why don't you just drop by and we'll watch a bit of the movie, grab a drink. I've got to be up early tomorrow, so I'll get you, stay for an hour. I'll get you a taxi back.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Wow. That's dude, I've not used that. That is awesome. I've got to get back early. That is your built-in excuse to listen, come back to my place. I got to get up early. Listen, I'll make sure you get back to your place so you're making her feel comfortable. She doesn't assume that she's going to spend the night. Yeah. Troy, that's brilliant. Keep going.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I would keep it to that kind of thing, really. As I say, yeah, I normally, there needs to be getting around plausible deniability. On the one hand, you want to be very clear what the deal is. On the other hand, it doesn't work well to say, all right, it's 11 o'clock, let's go back to my place and fuck. I mean, that's
hey, it's forward, but a lot of girls are like, all right.
yeah. Well, maybe it would work. I don't know. But I mean, generally speaking, I put in some little, so I'll say, the classic always used to be, let's go back and watch a DVD. Now, of course, we don't have DVDs anymore. So now I guess it's Netflix or whatever, you need to say something like that. Now, she's going to know what the deal is, basically. But it gives you that little bit of deniability. And then, as quickly as possible. And you need to think about the logistics of this as well. So how are you going to get back to your place? If you live, I mean, ideally you want to, be doing the date somewhere quite near to where you live. So it's less of a logistical problem. But if you live further, are you going to get an Uber? Have you got enough? Is your phone charged enough to be able to, call the Uber? You need to think about all these things so that there's no last minute hitches, because I've had plenty of last minute hitches where something happens, like my phone runs out of battery, I can't get a fucking Uber, the Uber can't find the place. I mean, there's so many irritating things that can happen. So you want to minimize those, because the more crappy things that happen that get in the way, the more you break the bubble, if you like, you break the spell. So it needs to be as seamless as possible. So you do need to think about logistics, ideally before you go out.
Yeah, I think that is very important. You make a very good point. Logistics can and will fuck up the chances. A girl listen, halfway through the date, the girl just might be thinking to herself, yeah, I'm definitely going to fuck this guy. If he can keep it on the rails, I'm going to fuck him. If your logistics aren't straight, that can fuck it up, because now the girl, you don't want to give her time. You don't want to give her things to think about. Girls want to feel relaxed. They want to feel taken care of. And if you've got everything taken care of, where you guys are at the bar. Oh, listen, he's got the Uber set up. I'm going back to check out his vintage record collection. He says I can catch an Uber from there. He's got to get up early. She doesn't have to think. All she has to do is fuck.
Exactly. And you want to make it as easy as possible. It's like any kind of a sales situation, really. You don't want to put further barriers. It's a bit like when they talk about online sales. You don't want to have too many different clicks,
right,
to get the customer to buy whatever the product is you're selling. You basically want one click. You don't want to put up barriers that then she's thinking, well, hang on a minute, actually this is all a bit pain. I've got to get up early myself. Maybe tonight's not the night, and blah blah blah. You want to make it easy as possible. So that's very important. Sometimes then you might get, she might say something like, well, I can't go back to your place because I've got to get up early because I've got to, do blah, blah, blah tomorrow. So at that point, I normally say something like, well, I normally just say something cheeky like, well, I've always wanted to see X part of town, maybe you can give me the tour.
Very nice.
Like that. And sometimes that will work, because they do want something to happen, but it's just that for whatever reason they can't.
They want to be in the safety of her place, right?
Yeah, exactly. So if you've got to kind of sound it out a little bit and take you'll get a gut feel for what the deal is.
Yes.
If she's saying, if she's saying I can't do it tonight, you should get a sense that if she really doesn't want anything to happen with you, then you should sort of get the sense of that. But if she's just saying it because there is a genuine reason, she needs to be at her place tonight, but she's leaving the door open for you to, to go with her. So you need to just sound that out.
That's exactly right. And when you say sound that out, that means walk through that door. Listen, the door might not be open, but you'll never know if you don't put your hand on that door, right? So when she says, well, listen, I really can't go back to your place tonight because I have to be up early too. Then you sort of, just like you said, say something cheeky, kind of smirk. Well, I've always liked to see that. I've always liked to see that part of town. So what do you say? Well, how about I just hang out with you tonight?
Yeah, or you could say something like, "Oh, well, I better make I should really make sure they see you home okay because obviously I'm a gentleman."
Yes. Very nice. And here's the thing, Troy. She will know exactly what you're playing at. When you invite her over to check out your turtle collection, when you say, "Hey, listen, I'm a gentleman. I'd really like to see you home." If she accepts, dude, it's on. She knows what you're doing, but she doesn't want you to think that she's a slut. She's not going to tell you, "Okay, Troy, I want you to come back to my place and fuck me." No, she's going to test you a little bit. How much does he want to fuck me? I can't go to your place tonight. Now, that's a shit test, by the way. That's a shit test wrapped in last-minute resistance. So when you blast through that shit test, she says, okay, this guy's a man. I wanted to fuck him anyway. Now I have the reason. So that when I tell my friends what happened, right? Well, I mean, I couldn't help it. He was a gentleman, and I didn't plan on anything happening, but he was a gentleman, and he wanted to see me back to my place. One thing led to another. There was nothing I could do. Troy was so good looking. He showed me his 13-inch dick, and I just had to fuck him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's how it normally goes down. And by the way, it's very, very rare once you've seeded in the, you've given the reason, you said, I'll come back and watch the DVD or anything. It's very rare that that DVD ends up getting watched or that Netflix show ends up actually getting watched. I mean, nobody seriously, and that's the thing. I mean, nobody seriously expects that to happen. It's just that you have to, it's about sort of social calibration as much as anything, isn't it? You have to go through the game. You have to do the dance, but it doesn't, everyone knows what the deal is really,
Of course.
Because I mean, we have to bear in mind. I mean, these girls have done this stuff before. I mean, it's not as if this is,
Troy, I normally don't have strange men back to my place of the first day. Right? Get out of here with that.
Yeah. And that's, exactly. And that's the thing about, I mean, we can talk about game as if it's this kind of really manipulative kind of thing. But the reality is, we're all adults here. I mean, people have done this. We've done this before, but the girls have done this before as well. So as long as you've just got to go. You just got to be socially intelligent and go through the right steps, and then it's all cool after that.
Excellent. So now we have her. Let's just say that she agrees to come back to your. No, actually, what is the difference in terms of trying to close the deal if you're at your place? Is there a difference? Is there a difference in the kind of game you use to try to fuck her at your place or her place? Is there a difference, or does it matter?
I don't know that it matters that much, really. I mean, generally speaking, if you've got to that point, then the likelihood of it happening is very high. So at that point, generally speaking, I just, as soon as they're through the door, I go for the makeout, and it pretty much goes from there. If now, of course, then you get into the territory. There is then sometimes, last minute resistance and all of that. Generally speaking, I think if you've got to that stage, it's likely that it's going to happen. If it then doesn't, I don't know that it makes a massive difference whether you're at your place or her place, really. You just need to go through the process, which is backing off. Okay, fine, whatever. Trying again, backing off. Okay, fine, blah, blah,
of course,
blah.
Right. Repeat.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know that it makes a massive difference what location you're at that point. I don't think. Do you think there's much of a difference?
No, there's in my book. I just want to know from your personal experience. In my book, no. Again, it's 50-50 for me, and it does not matter if she's at my place or I'm at her place. If a girl wants to fuck, she's gonna fuck. Now, when I suggest that she come back to my place, a lot of times, listen, she knows and it's funny, man, girls are turned on by men that they're not exactly sure about. I want to fuck this guy, but I'm kind of scared of him, and it kind of turns me on, but I don't want to end up dead or whatever. So I'll have him come back to my place, so I'll feel safer. But yeah, half the time I bring him back to my place, I fuck him. Half the time I don't. Same with her place. And when I'm at her place, one thing that I normally like to do is I don't pretend that I am a guest in her home. I pretend that the place belongs to me. So sort of a next level game trick that I like to do, as soon as I walk into her place, it doesn't even matter what it is. I walk right into her kitchen. I'm like, hey, where do you keep the cups? Oh yeah, they're on the left. Okay. I grab a cup. I put some ice in there. I fill it up with water. I'm starting to drink. Oh, do you want some water? You know what I mean? I am making her place mine. She wants to see that he is comfortable. That's a turn on for women. When you act like you own the room, even if it's a room she happens to be paying rent on.
That's a really good one, actually. That's a really interesting one. I'll keep that in mind. That's a good one. Yeah, that's cool, man.
See, there we go. We learn from each other. So you're at your place, right? You're on the couch, right? You guys are making out. Hey, obviously, listen, the DVD is on the coffee table. It hasn't come out yet. What do you do? What do you do at that point? So she's at your place. How do you get from coming into her place to fucking her? What is there a strategy? Do you have to feel it out? What are some of your go-to techniques to get her into your bedroom or fuck her on your couch, whatever? Because now she's there. It's obvious that she is sexually attracted to you on some level. So how do you, now we're at the point of truth where the rubber meets the road. How are we closing the deal?
Well, I think it's really just, like you say, I think at this point, it's clear that there is, there's reciprocal attraction there. So at that point, I would just go in more heavily. I would be making out. I would be starting to attempt to take off certain items of her clothing or whatever. And you've just got to gauge it from there. Is she going along with that, or is she not? Is she resistant to that? No, if she's resistant to that, then then you have to take a step back, and you do something else for a bit, and then you go back.
Okay, very good. So what does Troy Francis do when he tries to pull off the panties and she says no? What do you do? Like, what's the reaction?
I think it's without doing a cop out. I think it kind of varies per person. So
this is critical. Listen, this is a critical time, man. She's just told you she's not having sex right now. This can literally make or break the date.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I always take the view that how can I put it? In the end, whatever she wants to do, she's going to do, and it's sort of like I don't take the view of, okay, well, here's this amazing trick that's going to how can I put it? Totally turn around a situation like that. If she's not up for it, she's not up for it, and that's fine. Do you know what I mean? So yes. I try to go from a baseline of okay, whatever happens. Do you know what I mean? I'm not gonna kick myself. It's not gonna dent my ego if this ends up not happening. Sure. So I try to go from that baseline. Obviously I want it to happen, but at the same time I'm not gonna kill myself if it doesn't. So I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. If in the end, I call you a cab and you go home and then that's it. Okay, fine, whatever. So I try to think about what's the worst case scenario here, which is obviously nothing happening. And then if I'm cool with that, then okay, fine. So then you've got to sort of like, okay, so what can you do? Well, again, I would take the view that you can't influence somebody's behavior to the extent you can't force somebody to do something.
Right, of course not.
So all you can do, and not what you want to. So all you can do is kind of roll off, give them space, allow them time to think, and then go back and then escalate again. You know, because she's obviously the reality is she's there.
Still there. There you go. That's it. And listen, there's no. I think you would agree with me, Troy. There's no secret to fucking all of the work. Most of the work has been done before she comes into your place, right? Because when she comes to your place, she fully expects you to try to fuck her. This is what happens. Okay, so at that point, if you've been bold enough to suggest she comes back to your place, if you've been bold enough to physically escalate, dude, she's going to expect that you were bold enough just to go in. If she's sitting on the couch, dude, go in for the kiss, man. And while you're kissing her, don't leave it at that. Let your hands wander. And if she lets your hands wander, it is on from there.
Yes, I mean, I think I'm just thinking this through now, really. I kind of feel like you need to do the work almost needs to take place before you get there. And if you've set, I'm not saying if you've set everything up correctly, then it will always be plain sailing and you'll always get the result you want, because there are going to be times when it's just not going to happen. But in those cases, you can't do anything anyway. So you just have to be philosophical about that and accept it. But if you've escalated correctly before and she's still there and she's come back with you, then I do kind of feel in this day and age, 2018, you know, everyone's on Tinder and, you know, all the rest of it. And, you know, right. Everyone's watching porn. So, I mean, the likelihood is it's going to happen at that point, unless you seriously screwed something up. If it doesn't, then it's probably going to happen a bit later and you're just going to have to be patient, you know.
That's right.
And that means just hanging back. And even you know, people might say, well, if she's not going to fuck, then I'll just throw her out, put her in the taxi and throw her out. I wouldn't. I personally would say, you know, sleep over. The likelihood is then you're going to wake up in the middle of the night and it's going to happen.
There you go.
You know.
And to me, that's being a fake alpha. Any man who says, well, if it's sex now or leave. Remember the SNL thing early on in the early game days? If you don't fuck me, I'm kicking her the fuck out. Dude, if she's a 9 or a 10, you ain't kicking her out if she rejects you the very first time. If she is still there, she wants you to try again. Even if you go to sleep, bruh. Listen, if she is still there, she is still interested. Women reward patience and persistence.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think that's it, really. I think you just, you know, I don't think there's a magic trick. Right. In that moment, you know, in those moments of resistance, I do think if you set things up correctly first, before that, then you minimize the chances of that happening. But I think if it does happen, you're just cool, you're just philosophical, just okay, fine, whatever. It doesn't faze you. Well, if you get butt hurt, favors. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So whatever happens, you have to be cool and you just have to go along with it, you know. That doesn't mean that you stop trying or you stop persisting, but it means that you cool off for a little bit and then maybe go back to it a bit later on, you know.
Okay, good stuff. Now, okay, so you fucked her. And I don't want to go too far, right? Because now we've gone from picking her up all the way to actually closing the deal. Is there anything that you would suggest doing the next morning, or, you know, like if she decides to leave or if you decide to leave, are there any sort of precautions that you would recommend? And let's not get into listen, we all know about sending the morning after text, but let's say you want to fuck this girl again, right? Let's say you want to fuck her again sometimes down the line. What are some of the steps that you're taking the next day to make sure that happens?
It's an interesting one. I don't know really. I mean, I think once the deal has been done, the dynamic changes then.
Okay.
Really, and you can. I'm not saying you suddenly become really, you know, this kind of like lovey-dovey kind of, you know, like it becomes a Disney movie or something. But at the same time, I think once the tension has been released, you can start to be a bit more. You can start to show a little bit of a more. You can drop some of the bullshit. Do you know what I mean? And you can be a bit more human about it. And you can give her a cuddle and all that kind of stuff. So I think, you know, I tend to be. I tend to show a little bit more of that side afterwards. I think, you know, I don't think you need to be the kind of psycho, dark tetrad, you know, bad boy the morning after, like, bitch,
sure, like, get the fuck out of here. Yeah, right. I gotta go home to my poor girlfriend.
Yeah. I think you can show that you are. I think you just want to show that you're a normal guy. You know, you're pretty cool. Non-judgmental, of course, is very important. Not that you would be anyway, but I think you just need to make sure so that, you know, discreet as well. You're not going to be talking about this, particularly with somebody that you know, or she's in your social circle or something.
That's a mistake I used to make, dude. Like I used to fuck bitches in the social circle, be like, "Yep, I fucked her." I'm sorry. Go ahead. My bad.
I think you need to show. I think, as by the same token, you need to show that you also need to be careful to show that you're not going to become some kind of beta. You know, you're not going to become some kind of stalker kind of character.
Right.
You know, you've just got to be fucking cool, really. You've just got to be like, yeah, I'm a decent guy. I'm a good guy. I'm gonna, you know, you know, we can have a cup of coffee together in the morning or whatever. But at the same time, I'm not going to be in your case the whole time. You know, if we've enjoyed this, we've had a good time together. This is something we can do again. But you know, this stuff, it's finding a balance, and it's about calibration. And I think a lot of that just comes with experience, really. You know.
Good stuff. Well, Troy, it has been a pleasure, man. You definitely brought the knowledge, and I think anyone who watches this, I think they'll get a lot out of it, because we have literally taken my audience from the beginning, right? Like you've approached her, struck up a conversation. We took them from everything, from, you know, picking her up on the first date, your body language, interaction, to the venues, how they can help or hurt you, the difference between a dinner date and a coffee date. I think we covered that as well. And then, of course, what we also did is we talked about how to get her back to your place or to get into her place. And then we talked about escalation. So this was a very good show. And I think that any man who is in the dark, like any man who's out there who's in a slump, who says, man, like I want to fuck girls on the first date because I want to increase my percentages, I think that this is a very good show. So many thanks to you for providing, and thanks for making time for the show and giving, you know, dropping the knowledge. I certainly listen. I learn from you every time I talk to you. Is there anything else that you would like to tell our audience in terms of where to find you and how to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, if Twitter is a great place. So you gave my Twitter handle before, which is at Troy7Laws. And if you go to my site, which is realtroyfrancis.com, then there's daily updates on there. So loads and loads of stuff. And I've just put out a new book, actually, which is called Still in the Game. For guys. Yeah, for guys over 40. So dating advice for guys over 40. So if you go to Amazon, you can find that on there. So if you're 40 or if you're coming up to that, then there's hopefully loads of helpful tips and advice in there as well. So
I will link all of this in the description. He's also written books, like I'm actually going to link his Amazon page, How to Be the Asshole That Beautiful Women Love. And here, just like you said, Still in the Game, How Men Over 40 Get Results Dating Beautiful Women. Of course, The 7 Laws of Seduction. Yeah, that's a very good one. How to Get Hot Girls into Bed, a guide for the modern Casanova. And then, of course, this is a big one, Text Game Mastery, how to get her off her smartphone and into your bed. You've written some very important pieces. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to link your website in the description. I'll put all of your Twitter and all of your contact information in the description. I'm not gonna put your cell phone number in there, so you don't have to worry about any of that.
Awesome stuff. No, great stuff. And anyone wants to get in contact, you know, via Twitter or email, then please do.
Troy, I appreciate you coming on, sir, and we should do this soon.
Absolutely. Great stuff. Great to speak to you.
Absolutely. Take care, guys.
Cheers, man.